Introduction: The ultimate power. Everyone holds his fortune in his own hands, like a sculptor, the raw material he will fashion into a figure. But it's the same with that type of artistic activity as with all others. We are merely born with the capability to do it. The skill to mold the material into what we want must be learned and attentively cultivated. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. There exists a form of power and intelligence that represents the high point of human potential. It is the source of the greatest achievements and discoveries in history. It is an intelligence that is not taught in our schools nor analyzed by professors, but almost all of us at some point have had glimpses of it in our own experience. It often comes to us in a period of tension, facing a deadline, the urgent need to solve a problem, a crisis of sorts. Or it can come as a result of constant work on a project. In any event, pressed by circumstances, we feel unusually energized and focused. Our minds become completely absorbed in the task before us. This intense concentration sparks all kinds of ideas. They come to us as we fall asleep, out of nowhere, as if springing from our unconscious. At these times, other people seem less resistant to our influence. Perhaps we are more attentive to them, or we appear to have a special power that inspires their respect. We might normally experience life in a passive mode, constantly reacting to this or that incident, but for these days or weeks, we feel like we can determine events and make things happen. We could express this power in the following way. Most of the time, we live in an interior world of dreams, desires, and obsessive thoughts. But in this period or of exceptional creativity, we are impelled by the need to get something done that has practical effect. We force ourselves to step outside of our inner chamber of habitual thoughts and connect to the world, to other people, to reality. Instead of flitting here and there in a state of perpetual distraction, our minds focus and penetrate to the core of something real. At these moments, it is as if our minds turned outward are now flooded with light from the world around us, and suddenly exposed to new details and ideas, we become more inspired and creative. Once the deadline has passed or the crisis is over, this feeling of power and heightened creativity generally fades away. We return to our distracted state and sense of control is gone. If only we could manufacture this feeling or somehow keep this alive longer, but it seems so mysterious and elusive. The problem we face is that this form of power and intelligence is either ignored as a subject of study or is surrounded by all kinds of myths and misconceptions, all of which only add to the mystery. We imagine that creativity and brilliance just appear out of nowhere, the fruit of natural talent, or perhaps of a good mood, or an alignment of the stars. It would be an immense help to clear up the mystery, to name this feeling of power, to examine its roots, to define the kind of intelligence that leads to it, and to understand how it can be manufactured and maintained. Let us call this sensation mastery, the feeling that we have a greater command of reality, other people, and ourselves. Although it might be something we experience for only a short while, for others, masters of their field, it becomes their way of life, their way of seeing the world. Such master includes Leonardo da Vinci, Napoleon Bonaparte, Charles Darwin, Thomas Edison, and Martha Graham, among many others. At, and at the root of this power is simple process that leads to mastery, one that is accessible to all of us. The process can be illustrated in the following manner. Let us say we are learning the piano or entering a new job where we must acquire certain skills. In the beginning, we are outsiders. Our initial impression of the piano or work environment are based on prejudgments and often contain an element of fear. When we first study the piano, the keyboard looks rather intimidating. We don't understand the relationship between the keys, the chords, the pedals, and everything else that goes into creating music. In a new job situation, we are ignorant of the power relationships between people, the psychology of our boss, the rules and procedures that are considered critical for success. We are confused. The knowledge we need in both cases is over our heads. Although we might enter these situations with excitement about what we can learn or do with our new skills, we quickly realize how much hard work there is ahead of us. The great danger is that we give into the feelings of boredom, impatience, fear, and confusion. We stop observing and learning. The process comes to halt. If, on the other hand, we manage these emotions and allow time to take its course, something remarkable begins to take shape. As we continue to observe and follow the lead of others, we gain clarity, learning the rules and seeing how things work and fit together. If we keep practicing, we gain fluency, basic skills are mastered, allowing us to take on newer and more exciting challenges. We begin to see connections that were invisible to us before. We slowly gain confidence in our ability to solve problems or overcome weakness through sheer persistence. At a certain point, we move from student to practitioner. We try out our ideas, gaining valuable feedback in the process. We use our expanding knowledge in ways that are increasingly creative. Instead of just learning how others do things, we bring our own style and individuality into play. As years go by and we remain faithful to the process, yet another leap takes place to mastery. The keyboard is no longer something outside of us. It is internalized and becomes part of our nervous system or fingertips. In career, we now have a feel for the group dynamic, the current state of business. We can apply this feel to social situations, seeing deeper into other people and anticipating their reactions. We can make decisions that are rapid and highly creative. Ideas come to us. We have learned the rules so well that we can now be the ones to break or rewrite them. In this process leading to this ultimate form of power, we can identify three distinct phases or levels. The first is apprenticeship, the second is the creative active, the third, mastery. In the first phase, we stand on the outside of our field, learning as much as we can of the basic elements and rules. We have only a practical picture we have only a partial picture of the field and so our powers are limited. In the second phase, though through much practice and immersion, we see into the inside of the machinery, how things connect with one another, and thus gain a more comprehensive understanding of the subject. With this comes a new power, the ability to experiment and creatively play with the elements involved. In the third phase, our degree of knowledge, experience, and focus is so deep that we can now see the whole picture with complete clarity. We have access to the heart of life, to human nature and natural phenomena. That is why the artwork of masters touches us to the core. The artist has captured something of essence of reality. That is why the brilliant scientist can uncover a new law of physics and the inventor of or entrepreneur can hit up to something no one else has imagined. We can call this power intuition, but intuition is nothing more than a sudden and immediate seizing of what is real without the need for words or formulas. The words and formulas may come later, but this flash of intuition is what ultimately brings us closer to reality as our minds suddenly become illuminated by some particle of truth previously hidden to us and to others. An animal has the capacity to learn, but it largely relies on its instincts to connect to its surrounding and save itself from danger. Through instinct, it can act quickly and effectively. The human relies instead on thinking and rationality to understand its environment. But such thinking can be slow, and in its slowness can become ineffective. So much of our obsessive internal thought process tends to disconnect us from the world. Intuitive powers at the mastery level are a mix of instinctive and rational, the conscious and unconscious, the human and animal. It is our only way of making sudden and powerful connections to environment, to feeling or thinking inside things. As children, we had some of this intuitive power and spontaneity, but it is generally drummed out of us by all the information that overloads our mind over time. Masters return to this childlike state, their work displaying degrees of spontaneity and access to unconscious, but at a much higher level than the child. If we move through the process to the end point, we activate the intuitive power latent in every human brain, one that may one that we may have briefly experienced when we work so deeply on a single problem or project. In fact, often in life we have glimpses of this power. For instance, when we have an inkling of what will come next in particular situation, or when the perfect answer to a problem comes to us out of nowhere. But these moments are ephemeral and not based on enough experience to make them repeatable. When we reach mastery, this intuition is a power or command, the fruit of working through lengthier process. And because the world prizes creativity and this ability to uncover new aspects of reality, it brings us tremendous practical power as well. Think of mastery in this way. Throughout history, men and women have felt trapped by the limitations of their consciousness, by their lack of contact with reality and the power to affect the world around them. They have sought all kinds of shortcuts to this expanded consciousness and sense of control in the form of magic ritual, trances, incantations, and drugs. They have devoted their lives to alchemy in search of philosopher's stone, the elusive substance that transforms all matter into gold. This hunger for magical shortcut has survived to our day in the form of simple formula for success, ancient secrets finally revealed in which a mere change of attitude will attract the right energy. There is a grain of truth and practicality in all of these efforts. For instance, the emphasis in magic on deep focus. But in the end, all of this searching is centered on something that doesn't exist, the effortless path to practical power, the quick and easy solution, the El Dorado of the mind. At the same time, that so many people lose themselves in these endless fantasies, they ignore the one real power that they actually possess. And unlike magic or simplistic formulas, we can see the material effects of this power in history, the great discoveries and inventions, the magnificent buildings and works of art, the technological progress we possess, all works of the masterful mind. This power brings to those who possess it the kind of connection to reality and the ability to alter the world that the mystics and magicians of the past could only dream of. Over the centuries, people have placed a wall around such mastery. They have called it genius and have thought of it as inaccessible. They have seen it as the product of privilege, inborn talent, or just the right alignment of the stars. They have made it seem as if they were as elusive as magic, but that wall is imaginary. This is the real secret. The brain that we possess is the work of 6 million years of development, and more than anything else, this evolution of the brain was designed to lead us to mastery, the latent power within us all.